Welcome back to Helldivers, everybody, where today we're going to be taking a look at the Recoilless Rifle stratagem, and we're going to be going over the pros and cons to it, its stats, and I'm going to be putting it somewhere in my tier list, and I'm going to be ranking it amongst the other stratagems that we've talked about. So the Recoilless Rifle is a fairly early game weapon. You can actually get this as early as level 5, which is pretty cool. And this one is a shoulder-mounted rocket launcher, like a lot of Recoilless rifles are. So this one does extremely high damage per shot, as you would expect from that. This one also has fairly low damage per second because you do have to reload it after every single shot. It is a single shot weapon. The reload speed on this is generally pretty slow, which also makes it so the rate of fire of this is generally pretty slow. Main reason why I say generally is because this can be team reloaded as well. So if you have a teammate with a backpack for the Recoilless Rifle, they can also reload this, and then it is much faster. And then this actually has some of the fastest follow-up shots out of any of the heavy-hitting weapons. It's actually a lot quicker than I think just about anything else besides two people grabbing like EATs. But this does have more shots than an EAT, since you get 5 shots in total with the backpack, plus the one that you already have loaded into the weapon when you first get it. This has heavy armor penetration on it, so you can take out big enemies for it. This is a big killing weapon. This is a Titan killing weapon. It's used to kill Chargers, used to kill Hulks, whatever it might be. It does that job really well. This does cost 6,000 credits if you want to unlock this, which is not too high. It might be kind of high at the start of the game, but you're definitely going to be able to get plenty of credits for that. This one does come with its own backpack, so whenever you call this in, you get both the Recoilless Rifle as well as the backpack to it. You want to be taking both of those because that will allow you to actually reload this, unless you want to have a teammate take this, but then it's going to be awkward. It's best for you to have the backpack if you have the rifle. If you have 2 people with these rifles and 2 people with backpacks, then the team reload, I think, works a bit better than it otherwise does. This one has the standard 3-second calling time, just like almost all the stratagems, and it also has the same cooldown as almost all the weapon stratagems at 480 seconds, or 8 minutes in total. So you're not going to be able to call these in super frequently. For the pros of the Recoilless Rifle, this one does do really high damage. It is really good for taking out big enemies. It's good for taking out Titans, dropships, tanks, Hulks, Chargers, whatever it might be. This can one-shot pretty much anything in the game, short of like Titans, where you do have to hit them twice in the head if you want to kill them. But this can one-shot the dropships, it can one-shot Hulks, can one-shot Chargers, it can one-shot tanks if you hit them in the weak spots. Otherwise, it's going to take a couple of shots to a tank to kill them. But it still kills them fairly fast, and this does have the pro of the team reload, as practical or impractical as that might be. Again, it's usually best if you have 2 people with recoilless rifles if you want to be doing the team reload. Same thing goes with really any of the weapons, besides maybe the autocannon. If you have somebody with just an autocannon backpack reloading you, then that can actually be pretty useful. And I think the autocannon is the best for the team reload. The recoilless rifle is probably the second best, because it does have some use and it can take down big threats actually quite fast if you do that, and if your teammates are fairly coordinated, or at least coordinated enough to be bringing things like that work in combination. The cons to this, though, is that it does take up your backpack slot, so you can't take a shield generator, you can't take a supply backpack or anything like that, you can't take a ballistic shield, so it's not as good on certain mission types, and it might not be as good on certain builds, but if you don't have a problem giving up the backpack slot, then that's not such a big deal, and the slow reload is also a big con, as well as the reload forces you to stop in place when you do reload it. So you have to get to a safe spot and then you have to reload it, which can be kind of hard on the higher difficulties. If you're getting either swarmed by bugs or shot by the bots, there's not always a real safe place to go to reload this, so it might take you a little while to actually reload it, making it potentially a little bit less useful than some other heavy-hitting weapons, like something like the Quasar Cannon, which doesn't really have that drawback to it. As for all the different enemies, this will one-shot any of the small bugs, as you would kind of hope. It's a rocket launcher, I would hope that it would kill the small ones. It can also one-shot any of the medium bugs, and it can one-shot any of the small and medium bots. You would kind of hope that for these type of weapons, so long as you don't hit like the gunner bot in the shield. That's about the only thing that can actually shrug this off. Some of the other ones kind of can if you don't hit them dead center or hit them towards the head. But for the most part, you're going to kill like all the medium bugs and bots really fast with a weapon like this. But it's probably not going to be something you use then on anyway. That's probably better used for your primary and secondary. Chargers, this can one-shot if you hit them in the head. You can one-shot Hulks if you hit them directly in the eye, or if you hit them in the back where the heatsink thing is on them. Either of those can kill it with one shot. You can one-shot dropships so long as you hit them in the engine. You can one-shot tanks so long as you hit them in the back where their weak spot is. Otherwise, it's going to take multiple hits for that. And you can two-shot Titans with this so long as you hit them in the head. This does make it so, with the Recoilless Rifle holding 6 shots in total, the 1 shot in it and then the 5 shots in the backpack, it can make it so you can kill potentially 3 Titans with this, or 6 Chargers, or 6 Hulks, or 6 Tanks. Whether or not you're actually going to get that much value out of it, probably not, but it still is a pretty decent value, as well as since you do have the backpack on this, you can reload that by picking up ammo either around the map, or you can pick up ammo around the map and then reload your backpack. I think that gives you 2 shots in total if you do that. If you pick up a resupply, you're going to get more than that. So you can refill your backpack, which can be useful. It makes it so you might be able to actually get a whole lot of value out of the Recoilless Rifle if you use it just on heavy targets, and if you just use it whenever there is like resupplies called in too, so that you can keep reloading this. And just like all the weapons like this, it can also collapse bug tunnels, and it can destroy bot factories so long as you hit them where you need to. As for a build that I recommend for the Recoilless Rifle in terms of primary, secondary, and grenade, you can really go with anything. For weapons like this that are heavy target killers specifically, building towards crowds kind of helps in that role, or building towards the more common enemies. So if you're going on a bug mission, I really like the Punisher. I think it's one of the best weapons right now for bugs. The Breaker Incendiary is also really good, or the regular Breaker Shotgun are fantastic. Any of the assault rifles are pretty good. The submachine guns are also pretty nice. For a secondary weapon, also kind of the same deal. You could go with Grenade Pistol if you want to close up bug tunnels or destroy bot factories. If not, like the Magnum or the submachine gun are really good options right now too. And then for a grenade, pick whatever you'd like. If you want something that's kind of useful with this, you can go with stuns. That way you can stun a Hulk and one-shot it in the eye more consistently. That's pretty nice. That also works really well if you have like anti-material rifle or autocannon. They're also really good in that role. If you want to close bug tunnels, really any of them work that aren't either flashbangs or smokes. So any of them, pick whatever you'd like there. Impact nades are also pretty nice just because you can chuck them and destroy a lot of enemies really quick with them. I guess I didn't go over primaries for bot missions. Maybe like Scorcher. Scorcher's pretty good on bot missions too, or the Dominator. Both those are really nice. As for a stratagem loadout that I like to take with the Recoilless Rifle, the Recoilless Rifle is going to be our first stratagem since we kind of need it if we're going to be using it. Then like half the time I'll take EATs. EATs are fantastic. They call in so fast. They're super useful for the team. So they're always really nice on any sort of build. If you don't like that, you want another big enemy killer, you can go with the orbital rail cannon, which kills things really fast, or you can go with the 110 rockets. Those are really nice, or the orbital laser. Those are all really good options. Then for my third stratagem slot, I'll usually go for more AoE, more crowd control. So the Eagle Airstrike is really good because it can collapse tunnels as well as it can blow up structures, and it does really well against hordes of enemies. If you want more crowd control, you could go with something like Napalm. Napalm is really good on bug missions specifically. It's pretty good on bot missions too. Or you could go with the Orbital Chem Strike. That one's pretty cool too, especially for bug missions. It's actually surprisingly good for bot missions too, weirdly enough. And then if you want like some more utility options, which is sometimes what I go with my fourth slot, the Shield Generator is particularly good with this weapon on the bot missions, because it gives you a safe place to reload a lot of the time. So you can call this in, call down your shot, or call down your EATs inside of the Shield Generator, and then use the Shield Generator just as cover to knock out all the heavy bots. That's pretty nice. If you want to go with turrets, though, turrets are pretty good too. Pick whatever turrets you like the most. I think the autocannon and the rocket sentry are kind of the best ones at the moment, but that's just my opinion. So the Recoilless Rifle can be pretty good. However, there is a major flaw with it, and that has been, ever since the Quasar Cannon came out, kind of that making the Recoilless Rifle less useful. You can reload the Recoilless Rifle faster, and you can have faster follow-up shots, especially if you're doing the team reload than the Quasar Cannon. But you're probably going to get more value from the Quasar Cannon since it comes up every 10 seconds and it has infinite ammo. So you can fire that a lot easier. It also doesn't take up your backpack slot. So that kind of beat this one out in the same role that it was kind of doing. Again, if you're going with the team reloads, this one still has a place. I kind of wish the Recoilless Rifle would get some sort of buff in the future, because I don't think that it really is as good as some other options. EATs are kind of better than this too, since they're essentially the same, but they also don't take up your backpack slot. And they get called in every minute, so you get 2 of them every minute, which is really good. They are also just really good for complementing any sort of loadout, so that's really strong, especially if you want to take the EATs and the Quasar, because then you get 4 shots every time that you call in an EAT, since you can shoot the Quasar, switch to EAT, shoot both of them, and then switch back to the Quasar. Whereas the Recoilless Rifle, you're not going to be able to get that much rate of fire unless you're doing the team reload on it, which makes it a little bit awkward. So the Recoilless Rifle is still pretty good, and it's still very fun. I still like the weapon quite a bit, but it is not as useful as it used to be, in my opinion. So I'm going to put the Recoilless Rifle into the B tier, both for bugs and for bots. Mostly you're just going to be using this as a heavy bug killer or a heavy bot killer, and it fits that role really well. It's just, I think that there are better options right now for those roles. So the Recoilless Rifle is a decent option, and it's a pretty good option in the early game since you can't get the Quasar Cannon until much later. where if you want to take this with EATs, that's a pretty good combo there too. It's just once you get the Quasar Cannon, I don't really see the need to be using the Recoilless Rifle unless you have a coordinated team and you like doing the team reload. So tell me your thoughts on the Recoilless Rifle down in the comments below. I'd love to hear that. How do you guys enjoy this weapon, and should it get a buff? I think it should. I think maybe if you gave it some different ammo types that it could load in, that would be really interesting and would give it a niche all of its own. You could also make these limited to each backpack or make them somewhat randomized as to what you load into the gun, so that also kind of makes them a little bit more fun. I think that would be a really cool addition to the Recoilless Rifle, but for right now, I do kind of think that it needs some sort of buff to make it a little bit more viable for those other two options that we mentioned. Thanks everybody for watching this. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everyone!